Welcome into the Creighton Basketball Newsletter. I'm Jon Nyatawa with the World-Herald, here to talk some Jays hoops. Creighton made its unofficial season debut against Upper Iowa on Saturday. An exhibition game that Creighton won 76-61. A lot of good, a lot of bad. I'll try to break some of it down for you here. But first I want to remind you, if you haven't subscribed to the newsletter, I mean, you're watching this, so good chances that you have, maybe tell your friends then if you have. Omaha.com/newsletters. That's all you got to do. Put that in your browser, and you'll find a little box that you can check that says you want to receive these newsletters in your email inbox, and you'll get them. And it's a bunch of exclusive content for you Creighton fans about this team, and I'm excited to share it with you. We've been going for about, I don't know, 8 or 9 months now, and it's been a lot of fun to interact with you in that space. So subscribe, tell your Creighton buddies to subscribe if you have already, and let's build this audience. I'm open for feedback too. You know, if you want to talk about what you saw on Saturday, the questions going forward for this team, anything, my coverage, stories you want to see, things you want to read about, hit me up. Omaha.com. Well, I guess my email is jonnyatawa@owh.com, and you can find me on Twitter, Jon Nyatawa. DMs are open, so always excited to hear your feedback. Now let's talk some hoops. The good, I thought that, well, first off, there's a stretch where Creighton outscored Upper Iowa 32-2. All right, so end of the first half, the final 8 minutes or so, the first 3 or 4 minutes of the second half, Creighton was really locked in on both ends of the floor and did what it needed to put the game away. And so if you just watch that little snippet, you're probably coming away really impressed with this team. But it's a 40-minute game, and obviously this team being so young and adding new pieces, you knew going into it that there was going to be some ups and downs and some moments of inconsistency, and that's what we saw. And so I think that's probably going to be par for the course for these guys for the first few weeks of the season at least, maybe even longer, as they work to gel and just learn some things about implementing a game plan, the pace that's required to play, the decision making that needs to happen. I mean, if you look offensively, Creighton ended up with 76 points, shot 44% from the floor. There's a lot of room for improvement there because they have a lot of talented pieces, but it's the little things. I mean, Coach McDermott talked about maybe being more conscious about pushing the tempo, being in the right spots when they are on the break, and making sure spacing's where it should be. Decision making is important. I mean, they had 17 turnovers, so that's a number that obviously Creighton doesn't want to live with and doesn't want to be part of its DNA. It's usually a low turnover team that doesn't make a lot of mistakes offensively, really efficient on that end of the floor. And so I think you'll see that. I thought it was interesting, notable that a guy like Ryan Nembhard, when, you know, the freshman point guard, when Creighton was kind of still trying to find itself, trying to settle into the game, and Upper Iowa was bombing threes and hitting, I think the Peacocks started 7 of 14 from the floor from 3 in that game, and built a little bit of a lead, 4 points, 5 points, 6 points. And at that point in the game, I thought the freshman point guard was really savvy about finding lanes to the bucket and getting some easy ones. I think he scored 6 straight points at one point in the middle of the first half that helped Creighton avoid a sort of a larger deficit. And then once the Jays found their groove offensively, Alex O'Connell hit a 3, Ryan Hawkins hit a couple threes, they got inside a little bit, they were able to separate, and then the mountain or the hole that they had dug for themselves wasn't too deep, and I think you credit Ryan Nembhard for that. So there are a lot of guys I feel like you could go down the list and spotlight each player and say, oh, I like this moment, I like this moment from you. But as a team, collectively, I think they know that they gotta still get better. I was actually impressed, to be honest, with where they were defensively. While they did give up probably too many good looks in the opening 10 minutes of the game. I mean, ultimately, they only gave up 61 points, and they held Upper Iowa to 32% shooting. And they had, like I said, they had that stretch, whatever that was, 11 minutes, 12 minutes in the game where they only gave up 2 points. So you can tell that they have some really intriguing pieces defensively. Now, they're still learning the system, learning where to be, but They have athletes that can go up and get the ball and end a defensive possession with a rebound, which is obviously really important for this group. And they have some length to play with and to plug up driving lanes or to get their hands in passing lanes, to flex some balls and get some turnovers that way. And they seem to, according to Greg McDermott, be committed to that end of the floor. He said the leaders have done a good job of expressing sort of, hey, this is important. I know we came here to let it fly and push the pace and have a lot of fun offensively, but we got to dig in defensively and give ourselves a chance on that end, and that'll help ignite the offense, by the way. And so I think that the leaders have done a good job of setting the tone, and Creighton's guys have bought into prioritizing that end of the floor. I remember Trey Alexander talking to me at the start of preseason practice, and he was like, yeah, I think it's like 2-to-1 in terms of practice time for defense versus offense. They were spending a lot of times on the basics, the fundamentals. It seems to be paying off. They seem to be in a decent spot. Now, again, there's plenty of room to grow, but even when they were grinding away on the defensive end and, you know, doing a lot of sort of basic things, the players were cool with it. They understood why that time needed to be devoted to that end of the floor. And I think you've seen that some of the progress, at least on Saturday. So we'll see how much work can be done in the next 10 days. I think one of the main points that Greg McDermott made after that game against Upper Iowa was that they can take a lot from it. And he's actually going to sit down and watch film with each one of those guys, each one of the players, and dissect the good and bad with them and try to help them maximize those 40 minutes that they got. The trial run, so to speak, with fans in the stands, and we'll see how much room they have for improvement there. This final week, I guess, of the preseason of practice is going to be critical for this team, and I think it can take a big jump in that final week too. So curious to see how the Jays do there. One item to note is Sharif Mitchell did not play on Saturday. This was kind of expected. He's been in now the lineup during the preseason, and I do think that he's going to make an impact. Well, it's clear. I mean, he's the guy who he made an impact his first 2 seasons, certainly with his tenacity on the defensive end of the floor. But there were moments in that game where you felt, well, you know, if Creighton had just a little bit more leadership on the floor, if Creighton just had a little bit more experience on the floor, kind of to match an Upper Iowa team that brought back everybody. I mean, those guys came out sort of guns blazing, like a veteran team should. And so there are going to be a lot of instances like that, I think, where Creighton's going to face some teams that have a lot of returners, have some older guys, like 23, 24 years old on the opposing roster, and they're going to need somebody to sort of steady the ship and keep everybody sort of focused and maybe make some momentum changing plays. And I feel like Sharif's a guy who can do that. He's a couple weeks out though, according to Greg McDermott. So they'll still have to do some work in practice without him and hope that he is ready to go by the time the season starts. November 9th is the first game. So again, there's still time. So obviously still work to do for the Jays. But you know, it's I guess a good first step. They were encouraged by certain aspects of that game against Upper Iowa, and now they have you know, something on film to kind of go back and analyze and try to get better. So we'll see how much of a jump they can make between now and game 1, which is again November 9th. It'll be here before you know it. Can't wait. I'll have plenty of coverage on the team. We got a season preview story coming next week, and a little bit of a Big East season preview coming next week for the newsletter subscribers. So again, subscribe if you haven't. Let your folks know to do that as well. So for the Omaha World-Herald, I'm Jon Nyatawa. Thank you for watching.